Kyle Glaser about Imanaga, and we can get his thoughts on how, there's a comp, if there is one, to Senga. Baseball America's Kyle Glaser joining us right now. Kyle, great to see you. Great to have you back. Hope you had a great holiday. Imanaga is the talk of the town right now because he has to sign in the next couple days if he wants to play in Major League Baseball. So digesting some of what we just talked about, and also with Senga coming over last year and making 75 mil on his deal and then looking like a top of the rotation starter. How do you see this all shaking out? What do you think?
Well, one of the key differences between Kodai Senga and Shota Imanaga, Kodai Senga always had premium stuff. You go back to the 2017 World Baseball Classic at Dodger Stadium, it was wow stuff. Teams viewed him as a potential number two-ish front of the rotation type starter. The issue was he had some injury concerns later in his career in Japan and the walks, as you guys alluded to. But he was on a completely different level than Shota Imanaga. He was a premium stuff, front of the rotation caliber guy who just had some questions. Imanaga is really not that same level of pitcher, despite the money he might get, because the market is a little bit different this year. It's much more that soft tossing, touch and feel lefty. He's got a solid fastball in the low 90s, can get up to the mid 90s in short bursts, plays up with some riding life. The splitter's good. He can manipulate it a little bit. It's more of a ground ball pitch than a swing and miss pitch. The big thing with Shota Imanaga is he doesn't spin the ball great. His slider's kind of on one plane. It gets hit when it's in the zone, and his curveball is kind of a fringy pitch. So a lot of teams are hoping that they can help firm up his slider a little bit, maybe give it a little more tilt, maybe get it to be more of a chase pitch. I've personally been surprised that there's a sense he might get more than Senga, just because Senga was a completely different animal in terms of his ability and what he accomplished in Japan. Imanaga is more that if you really, really love him, he's probably a number four starter. Most think he's a number five, and some think he probably fits best as a bulk man, long reliever type on really top end teams. So he's a good pitcher who can help you. Everyone needs solid number four and five starters. Todd, AJ, Kratzy, you guys can talk about how if you have three great starters and the back of your rotation's a mess, it's tough to win. But he's not really the same level of pitcher as saying it's two completely different tiers of pitcher.
I love how you kind of broke him down right there because that was part of my question, breaking down how he pitches. For one, who would you compare him to in the major leagues right now? And the way you were talking, you signed this guy, he has to start in the major leagues right away, I would assume, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a guy who goes straight to the majors. Again, you can plug him in number four or five in your rotation. In terms of a comp, it's tough. Maybe if you really really like it's an end result similar to Marco Gonzalez. Again, different type of pitcher. Gonzalez had four pitches and that great changeup, but kind of that similar role where maybe he ends up as that number four. He can have a number three type season at his peak, but over the course of his tenure, he's probably that number four. That's kind of seen as the best case scenario. In terms of maybe the most likely scenario, pick and choose your favorite back end lefty starter who's kind of a touch and feel two pitch guy.
Is he possibly Keigawa? Do you remember Keigawa, or was that
Yeah,
before?
I do. I
Because
think
that
anyone
was
who's
yeah.
I think anyone who signed Shota Imanaga wants him to be better than Keigawa. Obviously, that did not go well. I think there's a sense he'll be better than that. Again, I think that there is a sense he can stick in a major league rotation. It's probably just, again, going to be more that back of the rotation. As opposed to Senga, you always saw the front of the rotation type stuff. He just had some more questions. Imanaga's stuff doesn't quite reach that same level.
Kyle, we had Saris on yesterday, and he loves Imanaga. And he said,
Yeah.
you just said something interesting that kind of was contradictory. He said he had the most run or ride on his four-seamer out of anybody, remember?
Said that
he had the most
as
run.
soon as he hits the big leagues,
he will have the most ride.
He'll have the most fastball ride in the big leagues.
But then he just said his ball doesn't spin very much, so I'm confused. Does spin not equal ride? I thought ride equals spin.
Sorry, when I say spin the ball, the breaking stuff. He doesn't spin a breaking ball very well.
Okay.
He definitely gets a lot of good movement on his four-seam fastball, and that's what helps it play up. It sits 89, 93. It can get up to 94, 95 in short bursts. There's no question. That thing has some good ride. When I say didn't spin the ball great, I was referring to spinning a breaking ball.
Okay.
My other question, so I'll piggyback off that in two ways here. So, Kyle, number one, if he does end up, say, getting $100 million, sure, the market is in play here for starting pitching. But also, I think if you backtrack to last year and you look at what Kodai Senga just did, if you could re-rack that, I think he might get close to $200 million on the free agent market right now. I think the Mets ended up getting a steal and a bargain as long as he stays healthy and on the mound. I mean, I think there were people so concerned about his walk rate. They were like, he might be so crazy out of control that he can't even be a starter, right? Like I felt like the barometer was all over the place with him. It was like, oh, he could be a 2 or he could be in the bullpen, right? So Imanaga seems safer. So just curious your thoughts, based off what AJ said. Eno seems like he thinks he's going to be a 2 or a 3 is my guess. And you're saying, I mean, his upside, his ceiling is a 4. So what do you think?
Yeah, it depends on perspective, right? So I come from more of a background of talking to scouts who are in the Pacific Rim who are watching him, and that has been the scouting perspective, that this is a number 4 ceiling. Number 5 is sort of your median outcome, and maybe worst case scenario, he's a bulk relief type. Again, you can certainly look at things analytically and perceive a higher ceiling. But just after extensive reporting on Imanaga for well over a year now, really going back a few years, I've been talking to scouts about him. It's been pretty consistent. That's how they see him.
And just looking at his numbers and everything, he's really just a fastball changeup guy, like you said. Could he be, because if you read the bottom of the screen, we have BetMGM, we're going to have to pick Rookie of the Year. Is there any validity to the fact that he could, if he goes in the American League? My opinion is Evan Carter is the tops. I think he's the bee's knees up there. That's my choice. But because National League, you got to pick Yamamoto. But is he a American League top 3 candidate?
I think there's certainly a chance, right? Again, you're talking about someone who's mature. He's able to really read swings. He does a good job mixing his arsenal. He can get a little bit one-sided to his glove side a little bit. That's something that we'll see if major league hitters are able to dial in on. But look, anytime you have a pitcher who has pitched at the highest level of baseball in the world that isn't Major League Baseball, which is NPB, that has had success in NPB, and has shown his stuff plays a bit against big league hitters. We saw him miss some bats in the World Baseball Classic last year, including in the gold medal game against Team USA. You certainly have a chance. Again, it's going to come down to the right team, the right coaching staff, the right ballpark, if he stays healthy. But if you were to tell me that Shota Imanaga comes over, goes 12-8 with an ERA in the high 3s, low 4s, and is 4th in Rookie of the Year voting, I could certainly see that happen.
Pretty.
Wait, who are the? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go.
No, if you're staying on that topic, go right ahead.
On Rookie of the Year,
I want to know who the 3 guys he was going to put ahead of him. He said 4th, Chourio.
Wait.
Depending on which league.
Let's do him. You want to do American League? I have some names.
Yeah, sorry, Todd, but that was like, wait a second here. I want to know who the 3 ahead of him were.
Wait.
Evan Carter.
Go ahead, Kratz. I'll help.
Evan Carter and the field. I'll give you the field. I'm taking Evan Carter.
All right, I'm going to give you a few more names.
Jackson Holliday.
Jackson Holliday.
Might not even start in the big leagues.
Ooh,
okay, but he could come up in a few weeks.
Elf.
Wyatt Langford, also going to be a stud with the Rangers. That's why they're really not worried about their offense. And Junior Caminero, if he's upright from the jump with the Rays, short and third. Those are some other names. Not intrigued?
I'm with you, Kratzy.
2 of those guys are in the American League. Okay. Holiday.
No, all those guys are in the American League.
Chourio plays for the Brewers. They're in the
Chourio. I said Holiday.
Junior Caminero.
National League.
Junior Caminero.
We might as well lay this out. And then Kyle can comment because, he knows prospects better than we do.
Of course.
National League, Yamamoto, Chourio. Noel V. Marte is still a rookie, even though he came up last year. He's eligible. Jordan Lawler's still a rookie. Pete Crow Armstrong, and I'll give you one more on the pitching side, Paul Skeens. So, Kyle, want to size what? Yeah, of course. But you want to size up both sides here for us?
Yeah, I think right now, if you were to handicap the field in the American League, Evan Carter has to be the favorite. I mean, let's not forget this kid was batting either 3 or 4 hole in the World Series last year. Every World Series game he was batting either third or cleanup. Hit 300 in the postseason, over 300 during the regular season. Played great defense. He has to be the favorite in the American League right now, just given he's gotten there and shown he can hit major league pitching right from the jump. Jackson Holliday is the number 1 prospect in baseball for us at Baseball America. We saw him get some AAA time last year. He's now got another offseason to get bigger, get stronger, just kind of make some adjustments. It wouldn't shock me if Jackson Holliday has a fantastic camp and maybe is able to win a spot in the Orioles infield on opening day. So Carter and Holliday, to me, are kind of the 2 big guys in the American League. Again, there's always players who come up, maybe surprise, are better than expected as rookies, but those would be be the two guys in the AL for me that are, kind of at the top of the field. Junior Caminero, again, we saw him come up last year. Depending on what role the Rays want to put him in, he's really a third baseman. They have Isaac Paredes there, but he's a good player who's going to get an opportunity. So I think those would be the top three in the American League. Then the National League. It starts with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It will be a shock if he does not win Rookie of the Year as long as he stays healthy. This is a guy who has a chance to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, not rookies in baseball, best pitchers in baseball from day one. He's got to be the favorite there. You mentioned Jordan Lawler. I think we're going to see Paul Skeens pretty early. He's a guy who could really adjust to Major League Baseball fairly early, similar to how we saw Steven Strasburg and Garrett Cole come up their first years after being drafted. This guy fits in that bucket, has a chance to make an impact right away. So again, there's so much young talent in the game today. We see it year after year after year, and 2024 is going to be no exception.
Interesting. Great take, dude, by the way, because when I knew you were coming on here, the first thing I saw was Baseball America, and now I know Eric and AJ can abide to this, but every month that Baseball America magazine came out, everybody's looking like if you had your name in this magazine or you felt like you were someone ever since I was in college on. So it's like, I want you to talk about the importance of these young guys coming up, and the more we can talk about these guys, because these are next up and coming crop that really need to understand they're hitting the ground running, and their main focus is to get to the big leagues, but their journey is a big thing too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, our job at Baseball America, one of our main jobs is to identify who are the best future major leaguers in the minors. And look, it's extensive. We talk to scouts for hundreds of hours over the course of the year. We dive into data. We go out and see these guys ourselves. And ultimately, you're projecting the future. There's going to be some misses in there, but anytime you can highlight some of these super talented players coming up, it's important to do so. And we've seen, again, throughout baseball history, but especially the last couple of years, we've seen so many special young talents coming up. We talk about Ronald Acuna Jr., you talk about Juan Soto, you talk about Fernando Tatis, and it's year after year after year. I got to cover Julio Rodriguez extensively, including during the Olympic qualifying that you were part of, Todd. Remember being in Florida, cover you guys during that. And you can see it there. This was a future superstar. So we see young players continuing to make an impact on the game every single year. Evan Carter being the latest example in the postseason. And there's just more talent coming. And it's a really fun time to be a fan of Major League Baseball and also all the players coming up through the systems.
Yeah, because this is what teams value. Cheap, free, controllable, young talent. So we talk about teams needing to spend. This is where they're spending, and Baseball America gets to reap the benefits of it. I want to ask you about the Jacksons.
Yeah.
Not career-wise, just this season-wise.
Yeah.
Who is going to have a better year just statistically? Not based on the team that they're on, not in the league, in the division, any of that. Statistically, who will do better in the big leagues this year?
I think it would be Jackson Holliday. Again, just the fact that he's got some AAA time, and also he's just such a polished player. What comes out about him, and again, as you'd expect from the son of an all-star, Matt Holliday, he just has that sixth sense for the game. He knows where to be on the field. He knows what pitches to attack. It's not just raw tools, raw skills, raw ability with him. It's quality at bats. It's good footwork and fundamentals on defense. All the little things that can help make a difference. He has that in spades, really from a remarkably young age. Let's not forget, this kid was a high school draftee who reached AAA in his first full professional season. That's borderline unprecedented, and he continued to perform at every level. He's someone that, again, there's always going to be a big adjustment when you're jumping from the minor leagues to the major leagues, but he's someone, like I said, who has that polish, who has those instincts, who has that just sense for the game that should help him have a soft landing. Jackson Chourio is tremendously talented. He's also shown the ability to adjust. He's a little bit more of a free swinger, and I think that's something that when you look at what will help Jackson Holliday be just a smidge better this year, it's that plate discipline, that ability to recognize balls from strikes and find pitches he can really, really drive on a consistent basis.
Kyle, question for you about the Orioles farm system in general. Where, first of all, are they ranked right in the latest team rankings by Baseball America? Do you know?
Yeah, so we updated them midseason talent rankings last year, I believe they were number one. We're putting together our organization talent rankings for this upcoming year. We haven't done it yet, so I don't want to say they're definitively in one slot over another, but they will be near the top. Again, they've done a really good job of backfilling their system. And again, part of that is they tanked for so many years in a row. They had a lot of high draft picks, so this was intentional. We have to be aware of that. At the same time, you still have to hit on those picks. A lot of teams have 3, 4, 5 bad years and they blow their draft picks. They're not any better for it. You look at teams like the Royals and A's, that's what's happened with them. The Orioles have hit on their draft picks. They've done a good job helping guys get better and develop, hitters in particular. And as a result, they still have a really good farm system despite graduating Adley Rutschman, despite graduating Gunnar Henderson, despite graduating Grayson Rodriguez. These are frontline talents that when most teams would graduate these guys, their farm system ranking would drop for the right reasons. The point is to get these guys to the majors. But the Orioles have graduated these guys. And they still have a lot more coming again, which is a testament to their scouting and player development group.
So let's spin that into a trade, because this team has shown us, and their owner has even said, like, they're not going to spend probably even any $100 million. And he threw out the number 150 at one point last year. And I think that was also just referring to extensions for the guys they already have and love, right? So we know they're not playing in the free agent market. That's obvious. In my mind, besides the Craig Kimbrell signing, yes, that was nice to fill the back end. They have to get a top end starter. Like, they make the most sense for Dylan Cease. So when you look at what they have, how easy is it for them to put a deal together? And obviously it does not have to include some of their top young guys. Jackson Holliday doesn't get touched in a Dylan Cease trade, but isn't it still super easy for them to put together a deal that makes sense for both sides? They have a logjam in general with their position players, don't they?
And a huge logjam. It's extremely easy for them to put together a trade package for anyone they want, whether it's Dylan Cease, whether it's Corbin Burns. Pick your favorite starting pitcher. The Orioles have the pieces to make a deal. It's about whether ownership will give them the payroll room to do so. Again, I've written about this extensively. If you want to win a World Series, you almost always have to be in the top half of Major League Baseball in payroll. There's no way around it. It costs money to acquire both the stars and depth needed to win a World Series. We see that again and again and again. And if the Orioles aren't willing to up their payroll into that $150 million range, they're going to miss a golden opportunity to win a World Series. They have the homegrown talent to do so. And part of that is they are going to need to go sign some key pitchers in free agency, but also make these trades where they are going to have to increase their payroll a little bit to absorb these salaries. They absolutely have the talent. They have the talent to acquire both Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns if they wanted. They have that much talent in their minor league system. It's about ownership being willing to absorb the salaries of those pitchers, and we have yet to see evidence that they're willing to do so.
All right, I know you can't give me, the complete sneak peek, but let's break it here. Baseball America's almost top 5 organizations in their minor league system right now. I know it's not official. We'll say it right now. This is not official, but who is your top 5?
Yeah, I think you look at the Orioles, there's just so much talent in this system. The Brewers as well, you have Jackson Chourio, but you also have a lot of really, really good young players below them. Jacob Mizorowski, a 6'8" right-hander who throws 100. There's some relief risk there, but it's a big arm. He's the type of guy you certainly want in your system. I still think you look at the Dodgers. This is a system that doesn't have maybe that top-end talent of years past, like a Corey Seager, a Cody Bellinger, or Walker Buehler. But from a depth perspective, this is the deepest farm system in baseball. You go down to, their number 18 prospect would be the number 1 prospect in some other systems. That's how crazy deep it is. The Cubs have done a really nice job in their rebuild. Obviously, they traded everyone away at the 2021 trade deadline. They've done a good job with drafting and developing since then. They've made some good trades. They're an organization on the rise as well. Those are 4 for me that I would put in the top 5. In terms of a 5th, no one's jumping to mind right away. I would say for me personally, those would be my top 4, though.
Kyle, great stuff. Great to catch up with you. Always really, really insightful. And we'll see you again soon, all right?
Sounds good. Happy New Year, guys.
You too.